What's up everyone, Taiki here, and guess what? Midcurve Taiki is back. Midcurve Taiki is back. So I had rather a sad ending to my Fartcoin journey. But as you can see by my dildo placement right there, the red dildo and the green dildo, they're touching tips. And what that symbolizes is I think we are entering a rather choppy moment in markets, where for every green dildo, it's going to be met with a red dildo. And if we are entering that market regime, I want to favor longing coins with fundamentals, but not only fundamentals, tokens with structural buy pressure for the token from protocol profits. I know this is Midcurve, right? But that's why I said Midcurve Taiki is back. If we are entering this regime, I think, the more speculative, reflexive stuff, I can buy that later, right? I can buy that once Bitcoin hits new highs, or if they just hit new, very low prices, I can just scoop some tokens up then. But for that reason, I decided to full port Maker. I know you are rolling your eyes, but bear with me here. I'll share my bull case for Maker, why I think there's edge in buying Maker, and why I think it's going to outperform in the coming weeks and months. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe and check out the premium Discord. I post 3 videos every single week and I share my portfolio in real time. So the high level overview of Maker, the bull case for Maker, is most importantly, there's going to be roughly $30 million of buy pressure for this token for at least 2 months. And I think it's going to be very difficult, or I think it's very difficult for the market to price in that much buy pressure, especially if the majority of the market participants don't even know about it yet. So that alone itself is the main reason. But also, Maker ETH bouncing off near bear market lows, we'll talk about, despite the DAI and USDA supply nearing all-time highs, and I'll talk about additional bull cases like the Spark farming, SPK farming. Throughout this video, I'm going to refer to a bunch of tickers. But Maker has recently rebranded to Sky Protocol. So Maker and Sky, they're the same thing, okay? But different, token denominations and different tickers, obviously. And also DAI, the stablecoin, has rebranded to USDS. So, whenever I mention these tickers, just understand that they're the same thing. The fact that it's so confusing kind of shows you why the rebrand was so bad, but we'll address that later. But to talk about the bull case, let me just talk about Maker's business model. I don't think you need me to lecture you don't need me to lecture you on this, but just to lay the groundwork. Maker, right, as a business, their revenue comes from people borrowing DAI, right, to lever up or farm or whatnot. But also another revenue source is the team taking the backing of DAI and putting into T-bills, like real world assets, or on-chain farming opportunities. So if on-chain rates like Athena is higher than T-bills, then they might allocate more capital there, and vice versa. So that's the revenue portion. The expense comes from salaries, like fixed costs, and also paying out the USDS savings rate. Right now you can stake your USDS and earn roughly 6 to 8%, and that's like a business expense. And whatever is left over is the profits. So just to give you the reason for why Maker is trading at the current prices and why I think it's gonna go trade higher, let's talk about why did it pump 2 years ago, why did it dump last year, and why I think it's gonna start pumping this year. So yesterday we had a pretty healthy green dildo for Maker. It was up 21%. I mean, for a DeFi token, that's very impressive, right? But I also think that it's rather early, right? In the bull cycle for Maker. So in 2023 we had this bullish price action from roughly $500 to $4,000, right? That's an 8x, very, very impressive. And it's hard to buy the bottom and whatnot, but for Maker, it was pretty simple, right? On June 23rd, 2023, they essentially said, we're going to pump our token, right? We have money, we're going to buy back the token, and we're going to pump it. That's basically what they said, right? And I was making these videos back in 2023, pretty lame stuff here. And this is why people call me Midcurve Taiki, right? Everyone was buying meme coins and whatever, right? I was buying DeFi coins, catching humble 2-3x's. It is what it is, but maybe sometimes it's good to go back. But the reason it pumped is because of buybacks, and also there was some hype for the rebrand, right? New token good, right? People were like, oh my god, it's gonna pump the token. But in 2024 they rebranded and it dumped because it was a bad rebrand. Okay, so obviously, and also the buyback stopped, right? Buyback good, rebrand good. No more buyback, rebrand bad, Very simple. That's kind of why it retraced. And if you look at the ETH pair for Maker, it's actually trading back at its range lows, at least on the ETH pair, right? Despite, looking at USDS and the stablecoin supply, back when it was like trading there, it was like the stablecoin supply was like roughly 4.7 bill, like 4.6, etc. But now we're at 8 billion, or 8 to 9 billion. But we're trading near the lows. Of course we bounced pretty strongly, and also on the Bitcoin pair. Of course it's kind of hard to call bottoms on these like this down only price action, but the market definitely remembers. There's like some muscle memory there that whenever these tokens introduce buybacks, and like on governance posts that no one pays attention to, it's typically bullish, right? If you just bought the token like July 1st after you saw this, you just like made a bunch of money, right? And it's really, really hard for these tokens to price in these buybacks immediately. It takes time because it's not like the buy pressure is happening right now. It's coming in the future, and of course people buy front running these buybacks, and people sell into the buybacks and whatnot. But generally, these buybacks, especially for these fully diluted tokens, tends to be pretty bullish. And you might be asking yourself, or you might be asking the question, well, isn't this already in the price? I mean, it did pump pretty strongly from the lows, but I don't think the market can price in the amount of buy pressure it's coming for the token in a single daily green dodo, despite it being pretty large. So let's talk about this. So the buybacks, let me kind of explain how it works and why it stopped, and why it's going to continue, or why it's going to resume. So going back to info.sky.money, let's talk about this one. So the system surplus. So this is basically the amount of dollars in the treasury, let's say, and it's currently at $64 million. Right now, for the buybacks to resume, this has to hit 120, and it's not even close, right? So of course, like people are selling the token. Like, why would you buy this thing? But if you if you check this proposal that came out yesterday on February 21st, or today actually, I'm recording this on Friday night, so that's why the price might be different. But recording this Friday night, they recently changed the threshold for buybacks to 70 million. So instead of 120 million, right, for buybacks, now it's 70 million, which is good. But it's like, hey, Taiki, it's at 64. They're not gonna buy back anytime soon, which is true. But this proposal is paired with another proposal, this one, the Smart Burn Engine liquidity unwind, and they're basically saying that, okay, we have a bunch of protocol-owned liquidity, but we're gonna reduce it to $15 million of like on-chain liquidity, right? They're going to pull LP, some Sky tokens is going to be sent to the treasury, and then the dollars are going to go to the system surplus. So if you go here, you can click on the Smart Burn Engine. It's, let's say, like at 135, right? So for this to go to 50 million, that means they need to pull out $120 million worth of liquidity, half of that being stables and half of that being Sky. So going back on this, if the system surplus is over 70 million, it's going to buy back the tokens. After they pull 120 millions of the LP, 60 million, right, half of that is going to go into the system surplus. And given that it's at 64 right now, it's going to be at 124. And all of that is going to go into buybacks, right? And also, Maker is a profitable company, right, or a business, and future profits, which I think, there's growth initiatives and like bull cases to increase this profit. It's all going to go into buybacks. So basically, in 2023, you could have just bought Maker when the team said we're gonna start pumping the token, and then made like a 4x, if you just held. And now the team is pumping the token, right? So why not buy? So whenever I saw these two proposals, I bought when this came out. I also bought when this came out. So I decided like just full port, because what's the downside, right? I mean, they're gonna buy back like $50-60 million of the tokens, like over the next 2 months. I mean, surely, right? It's hard to price that in, and the downside is capped. And given this, given the rate at which, or this proposal, they're trying to burn they're trying to buy like $30 million per month, which is like roughly $1 million per day, right? So I'm just effectively front running the upcoming buybacks. And I mean, that's partially like why this big green dildo came out, right? I was like, oh my god, I was like buying on the way up, right? And you can argue like, hey, like Taiki, like isn't this already in the price? I mean, Maker did produce a green dildo, right? I mean, like, why would I buy this thing? But the thing is, who the fuck is reading this, right? The only people reading this are people like me, like nerds like me, and maybe like some other nerds, right? I just don't think it's in the price, right? I think there's significant edge to be had reading these governance forums, and like that's like one of the things I'm like decently good at. Like whenever sometimes there's like free money laying on the table. You can like just read this and be like, okay, like it's gonna go up, right? The team is gonna pump the token, and it's good to buy. In terms of timeline for when it's gonna go live, this proposal just came up, and so people are gonna vote, right? But like when it comes to Maker, governance is me, right? There's no governance, right? It's like the founder and like the team just like pushing these things out. This is gonna go live, I think, on Monday. So as early as Monday, these buybacks can begin. So they're going to lower the surplus to 70 million, and then they're going to pull the LP. So assuming they do this the same day, there's going to be like $1 million of buy pressure on Tuesday, like next week, right? And like, who knows about this? Like, no one knows about this, right? So whenever I enter like DeFi trades, right? For example, like my most recent like video was like buying Aave, right? It's like I thought Aave was cheap down here. And then I, figured out that, hey, like Aave buyback proposals are coming. So just, usually like for DeFi projects or DeFi tokens, it's not enough that the token is cheap, right? Because if the token is so cheap, why is it trading there, right? Chances are you think it's cheap, but it's probably not that cheap, right? Because the current price is the fair market price, right? Set by the market. Usually like the best setups for DeFi coins, especially because like no one looks at these things, is when you can argue that the fundamentals are good, right? Or like the valuation is cheap, but there's also like some proposal or some catalyst upcoming that people can buy into, right? You want the narrative to be, wow, return to fundamentals, the valuation is so cheap, and the buybacks are happening, and XYZ is coming, right? That's the type of things that like these tokens need in order for it to outperform, right? For Aave, it was okay, very low valuation, good project, buybacks coming. It hasn't come yet, but it's going to come sometime soon. That was the case in 2023, right? It's pretty cheap. Buybacks coming. Oh, rebrand is coming. Let's pump it. Of course, at some point, if the catalyst is not bullish, then it just dumps again to the downside. But that's generally how I think about it. So obviously, it's not just because there are these buybacks, it doesn't mean that Maker is going to like go parabolic and hit new highs, right? I don't really like the way I view Maker is that it's one of those things that has demonstrated in the past to outperform when the markets are choppy. So this is the Bitcoin price. Let me just overlay the Maker chart here. I've talked about this before, but when the markets were choppy in 2023, that's when Maker started to outperform, right? And then when the markets start pumping, it kind of like also participated, and then it kind of had that weakness because the rebrand was like really, really bad. And generally, I think whenever the markets are choppy, like the market just loves to bid like buyback tokens. Another example I've talked about is like Rollbit, right? So I don't own a position in Rollbit, but when the markets were choppy, people bought Rollbit, and then as soon as Bitcoin started producing green dildos, that's when Rollbit topped, which is kind of interesting, right? You want to buy these tokens, like buyback tokens and fundamental tokens, when the markets are slow, but as soon as the market starts pumping, you probably want to rotate to the more speculative stuff. And that's kind of how I approach it, right? Maybe, my portfolio strategy is like long Maker when the markets are slow. But if Bitcoin hits new highs above like 110, maybe I buy back Farcoin, right? Maybe it's like that simple of a strategy. I mean, of course, I'm not going to, claim that that's going to be my strategy because I don't really know what the future holds. But that's kind of how I'm viewing it. Maker tends to outperform when the markets are slow and buybacks are starting. That's happening right now, and the market doesn't know about it yet, right? I'm able to identify my future exit liquidity, right? My future exit liquidity are like fund managers and like momentum traders that's gonna like buy this on the way up because chart looks good, or fundamentals, like narrative, like whatever, right? Also fund managers, right? That's gonna like, buy because of like the fundamentals. And also, I mean, the most important exit liquidity is the protocol, right? All the profits are gonna go into buybacks. So like, what's the downside? Pretty good. What's the upside? It remains to be seen, right? I think Maker has a pretty easy path to like, let's say 2K. I think that's like pretty easy, right? But past that, I don't really know, right? Because the recent, if you study like the chart, right? This high was because like the DeFi summer bubble, right? Or like DeFi bubble of 2021. This was because of like the speculative rebrand hype. So I'm not sure like what hype narrative it has going for it right now. But given, right? So if you study like March 24th March 2024, what was the stablecoin supply? March 2024. Let's check here. It was like 4.5 billion, right? The stablecoin supply was 4.5 billion, and then Maker hit 4K. Now it's at 8.2. Probably gonna go higher. So if there is a strong narrative for it, right? If there are future catalysts for it, that is perceived good by the market, then I don't really see why we can't take out these highs. I'm not predicting, right? I'm just thinking about upside bull cases, and I've been thinking about like the bull case, and this is I don't know when these things are going to happen. But going back to my last point here is Spark farming. So I think this can be a tremendous money printer. So let me just set the groundwork for like what this thing is, right? So Spark Protocol is a part of Maker DAO, but it's like its own thing. It's like an Aave fork with $3 billion of TVL. They do other things. They're kind of like an asset manager where they can borrow dollars from like Maker and then redeploy it on chain, and then they can pocket the difference. It's like, Maker is like the Federal Reserve, and then Spark is kind of like a commercial bank, that type of thing. And Spark right now does not have a token, right? And as part of like the rebrand and endgame, there was kind of like I mean, this is all confusing, right? But Rune, like the founder of Maker, talks about like these stars. So like Maker, right, is sky, right? And in the sky, there are a bunch of stars, right? That's kind of how it works. And all of these sub-DAO tokens or like stars, there's gonna be multiple. There's gonna be a bunch of these. So there's Spark, there's gonna be like real world assets, there's gonna be like a Solana one, I think. There's gonna be like other stuff. And all of these stars, so like little companies or sub-DAOs under Maker, they're gonna have tokens. And the only way to farm these tokens is by either staking USDS or staking Sky. Okay, so it's gonna be like a fair farm where, like the only way to farm it is by just buying Maker, staking it, or buying and staking USDS. And if you farm SPK with USDS, you don't earn the savings rate, right? You don't earn like whatever, like the 6.5 or 8% rate that Sky is paying you. So what does that mean? Only way to farm is by introducing more demand for either USDS or the token itself, which is good, right? Which is kind of bullish. And if people mint USDS or like buy USDS, Sky can take the backing, right? Because I mean, you take USDC, you swap it for USDS, and now Maker has that USDC, right? And with how the business model, like how the business works, they can take that backing and redeploy it into T-bills, like paying like 4%, or put it into like Athena or Aave, let's say like 4 to 10%. Let's just say 5% to simplify things. So if Spark farming creates, let's say, $1 billion worth of additional like stablecoins just for the purpose of farming it, what that means is if that $1 billion is earning like 5%, that's $50 million of revenues with zero cost, right? Because they're subsidizing that growth by printing new tokens, these Sky tokens, Spark tokens, and all that profit is going to go directly into like the system surplus, and then they're going to like buy back the token, right? Like $1 million a day. And if all these stars, right, not only like the Spark token, but like more stars come out, it's kind of like a way to like Ponzify like the farming, right? It's also like I don't really know how much this thing can be worth, but I think it can reasonably be worth like $500 million to like $1 billion, like the Spark token, and that's gonna attract a bunch of farmers, right? Like let's say you can earn like 10% staking USDS to farm the Spark token that you can accumulate or dump, right? I mean, that makes sense, right? And if people do that, then the metrics are going to start pumping, right? Like these metrics are going to start looking fantastic, right? Just think about the future, right? Just think about the future narratives. Yes, it kind of looks bad right now, but that's already reflected in the price. What's going to get people to buy this thing like up here, right? It's probably going to be like a mix of buybacks, like sub-DAO farming, like Spark, like star farming, like Spark, more tokens pumping, right? Like more tokens coming out, and then like other growth initiatives, like, you know, their expansion to Solana. So that's kind of how I view the Maker trade. They have all these catalysts going for it. I don't know what the timing for like this farming thing is. So if this doesn't happen anytime soon, then, you know, maybe the upside is fairly capped. But the Maker team, they're not stupid, right? They know what they're doing. Last time they said that they're going to pump the token, they pumped the token pretty well. And I would assume that if they're just like trying to pump the token immediately, they're probably going to coincide it with other strong narratives. And I think the Spark token is going to come relatively soon. I mean, this thing was supposed to come out like a year ago, right? And now it's like 2025. So it's ready, right? They're just like waiting for the right time. And I think now is a pretty good time, especially given the growth of USDS and like the stablecoin and the current market environment. So yeah, like, why am I buying? Buybacks are good. And there's other catalysts that the market is not too aware of, but I think that's going to add additional tailwinds for the asset. And, you know, the way I view Maker, like I said, so I mean, you know, this is taking like consumer staple stocks and dividing it with like the S&P. And typically, whenever there's like a recession, the consumer staples outperforms like the index. And similarly, if I have a view that we are in a on-chain recession, where, you know, we had the Argentina coin rug, you know, Trump, like the president of the US is like rugging, right? Melania is rugging. The sentiment on-chain is pretty bad. And I think it's going to come back, but I'm not sure when. So if on-chain is in a recession, then I think the markets are going to favor predictable cash flows over pure speculative narratives, fraud, and like, you know, dream big narratives, right? So literally how I'm viewing it is, okay, I'm long Maker because I have an edge, right? My edge is reading the governance forums, right? People like the market being unaware. I am aware, okay? So I can buy before these people. And even if like I'm not even like that early to the trend, I mean, it's really, really hard to price in all these, you know, like all the amount of buybacks it's going to experience in like the coming days and weeks. So I think that alone can send Maker to much higher valuations. And especially, right, if the market are slow, then people are going to find reasons to buy this thing because, oh, like good narrative. So that's why I full ported Maker. I think it's one of those low downside, moderate upside type of assets where I don't have huge expectations for the token. You know, like I'm not saying it's in a 10x or anything, right? But I think it's a pretty asymmetric risk reward, even despite this small green dodo, right? Or this modestly sized green dodo. So for that reason, I bought Maker back to my Midcurve roots, right? Midcurve Taiki is back. And, you know, for me, I try to, you know, make the most out of any market environment. Sometimes that means like buying meme coins or like speculative stuff. And sometimes it means, okay, like the markets are kind of slow. Let me just, you know, buy something. I can just size in, right? Maybe get a 2x, 3x. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. Can't complain. And I think Maker is one of those assets that I understand really, really well. And I just have like a sixth sense when it comes to like, okay, like this shit's gonna pump, right? So for that reason, I bought a bunch, and you know, I intend on holding it as long as the markets remain rather choppy, and as long as the buybacks resume and continue, and you know, I'll be monitoring the stablecoin supply growth, and most importantly, like the real bull case is, okay, like when are these new stores coming out? I think if this comes out, you know, I think it's I can definitely see this thing like, you know, breaking 4K, right, the previous highs, especially because, you know, it's going to coincide with not only buybacks, but the stablecoin supply hitting new highs. I think it's going to hit new highs if the sub-DAO farming starts. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys for watching. If you want more premium content or more content, check out the premium Discord. I post 3 videos every single week, and I share my portfolio in real time. And you know, it's been a it's definitely been a shift, right? It's like, okay, like, Taiki goes from green dildo, fart coin guy to now, claiming that there's gonna be green dildos for Maker. Maybe the only similarity here, or maybe like the only common denominator is that, like, this thing is green and the Maker is also green, right? Like the token itself. Maybe not even, because they rebranded, right? It's like purple or something. Like not even that great. But I think buyback tokens probably good, especially if you have you can like say you have an engine. But thank you guys for watching. See you guys another time, and yeah, bye bye.